Thank you. Thanks to you and for those who are online. So I'm very honored to be part of this first MedCup event. And what I will try to cover today is to give you some insight about what is vaccine, what is vaccinations, and what are the place of vaccination in the future in medical health. So few numbers which are important that everyone remember. According to the WHO organizations, except clean water, anything has been able to save life apart vaccines. So that's quite amazing to realize. We save through vaccinations up to 2-3 million around the world thanks to vaccinations. Not only we save life, but also we save disability linked to infections. And you see those numbers, they are quite impressive. Vaccination is something that has allowed to expand life expectancy, save life, and unfortunately, the success of vaccinations has been linked to hesitancy. And why? Because through vaccinations, many diseases has disappeared, and many people don't think about them because they are not known. We don't speak about them, thanks to vaccinations. And I have put few examples here of diseases that were associated with infections that were killing people in the past, where through vaccination, they were either completely eradicated, like polio, measles, you barely see diseases associated to measles, but many other, tetanus, pertussis, all those infections has almost disappeared thanks to vaccinations. You see the level of efficacy, which is quite impressive. We still have work to do because the coverage of the vaccination around the world are not equitable. So we need to make sure that we continue to have a system, a mechanism to provide vaccinations to countries where deaths are still occurring due to those diseases. So now, let's be proud about Belgium. I tend to always remind people that we should think about Belgium as the Silicon Valley of vaccinations. We have been very renowned and named during the pandemic thanks to all the activities that are linked to vaccinations in Belgium. And this is because of the vast variety of public partnership that we have, which has allowed to have science, development, and discovery of many vaccines. So GSK is present in Belgium, and we have a research and development, and I will speak more later on about what we do in research. It's the biggest footprint for manufacturing, but also in terms of distribution. Belgium has been finger point where we have the best manufacturing distributions. That was also highlighted during the pandemic. And that's thanks to our heritage in Belgium on the vaccinations. You have here a picture of the biggest manufacturing site in the world, which is located in Wavre, not far from here. And in Rixensart, this is the historic place which has been built back in 1958, where all the vaccine that has been developed in Belgium has been done. And as a wink to this place where they have been discovered and developed, all the vaccine and by Rix, really to remember where they have been developed. So we benefit from a pharma valley of Belgium, and this is translated by the fact that most of the vaccine that has been developed in Belgium are done through collaborations with academic and biotechs, which is quite an ecosystem that is favorable for healthcare and especially in the field of vaccinations. So history go very far if we think about what we have been able to achieve through vaccinations. You go back in 1 century, and every vaccine that has been developed since then is associated to breakthrough technology, breakthrough innovations that were able to unlock new solutions for treating some infections. This is thanks to technology that has allowed to bring more safer vaccine and more efficacious vaccines. If you remember back, the few first vaccinations, they were essentially made by inactivated viruses. which had the benefit to work, but they were also associated with side effects that some people did not accept. Thanks to the technology, thanks to the understanding of the science of the pathogens, we've been able to, along the last century, to be able to achieve new vaccines with a better safety profile. Thanks also to the science linked to immunology. When you do vaccination, you basically are teaching your body to do the medicines that will help you to prevent an infectious disease. So you basically mobilize your immune system to protect you against pathogens. The science that has been associated to the immunology has also taught us about features that we need to take into account when you develop vaccines. For example, this is exemplified here. What are the populations that are the more sensitive to infection, the more susceptible to infections? The babies. Why? Because their immune system are immature and they have more susceptibility to have an infections. As we get older, our immune system get also older, and the protections against infection decrease. And that's why it's important that you understand the differences between the populations and the way you want to design your vaccinations. To be more clear, a vaccine that you would develop against the same pathogens for children, for babies, would not be the same that you would use for elderly populations. Why? Because in one case you will be seronegative, you have never been exposed to the pathogen. If you are in an elderly population, you have been already exposed, and what you are trying to do is to rejuvenate your immune system against this pathogen. So you might use different technology, different tools. Together with the science linked to the pathogens, understanding how the pathogen really functions when it gets in contact with the body, those two tools are quite important when you start to design a vaccine. Close to us, the spike that everyone has heard about it in the COVID-19, because of the science that was done to understand the coronaviruses, we were able to see which antigen needed to be targeted to develop a COVID-19 vaccines. So when we speak about vaccinology, there is a huge amount of science behind the design of the vaccines and the understanding of the immunology. This concept gives you also the reason why we speak more and more often about a life course immunizations. Vaccination has allowed us to have a better expectancy of life. We get older, so you need also to make sure that you have also a way to protect elderly. One might have thought that we have been able to develop the vaccine for all the pathogens. Answer is no. There are many pathogens for which we still have to find solutions to be able to protect people. So what are the trends in innovations in the vaccinology? As I said, the better understanding about the interaction of the pathogen and the immune system, using the tools that are available today. When I speak about tools, it's new technology. We have heard a lot about mRNA technology, but many other tools are allowing us to understand better the pathogen and how to target it. Using big data is also allowing us to have more information about the disease and the interactions. So all those tools are now allowing us to make sure that we have more weapons, more understanding to design future vaccines. And I will cover some of them. A snapshot about what are the remaining big global burden of disease linked to pathogens. Needless to remind everyone about tuberculosis. We are getting very short in terms of weapon about tuberculosis. You see the number of deaths still that are happening per year. Malaria, we have now a first vaccine that has been put into the markets, which are giving promising data, but still there is opportunity to continue to increase the efficacy. And many other diseases that are potentially global threats for the future, which are bacteria and resistance to antibiotic, like Staphylococcus aureus, Clostridium. We are getting very scarce in terms of antibiotic and tools to treat those patients that get those infections. So we have still a lot of science design to be done to have a solution to fight against those diseases. Those are not easy. As I remember, before we were able to develop a vaccine against the malaria, it took us 30 years of research and development. We've been working on a tuberculosis vaccine for the last 2 decades. So that gives you the lens and the science that needs to be done to really have something which is working. Moving from empirical approach, like using the whole viruses attenuated, to something which is now much more tailored, is something that will unlock the possibility to have solution for the next wave of pathogen. And technology, understanding the immunology when you are naturally infected, to be able to go back and see what the body has done, to be able to understand what you have to induce through a vaccinations, is something that is important. And this is what we call reverse vaccinology, reverse immunology. Those new tools is thanks to all the new life science technology that is happening, the big data, that will help us to unlock new fields. Adjuvant. Those are molecules that you mix with within your vaccines to allow to address some key feature. It's giving a weapon to your body to increase the immune response. Here an example, during the last pandemic H1N1, we used a flu vaccines with an adjuvant, which not only allow us to have more supply to go through the pandemic, but also the beauty of it was that we had a cross protection against different serotype of the virus. You hear a lot about the variant about COVID-19, so the more you can also increase what we call cross protections, the more also you can have value of your vaccinations, which add an additional weapon. Now, what are the key focuses that we are working on? After the flu, if you think about respiratory diseases, the first viruses that come is the respiratory syncytial viruses, RSV. Remember the immunogenicity and the immune system throughout the age. The population that are the more susceptible to these infections are infants under the age of 5 and the older adult. In those two populations, this is where you see the higher rate of hospitalization and respiratory diseases. So having a vaccine available for those populations need again to tailor the two approach. So how are we doing that? This is a vaccine that has given headache to the scientists the last 30 years. The first attempt was not successful. It has announced the disease rather than protect it. So people had to go back on their draw and say, what do we need? You need to understand better the virus before starting a new vaccines. Now we have a better understanding which needs to be done and how it has to be done. The approach we are using, it's an approach which is innovative. To protect the babies, the idea is to vaccinate mother at the last trimester of their pregnancy to induce antibody responses which will go through the cord blood and protect the babies during the few months after the baby born. This has been done for other pathogens like pertussis, and we are very successful. And if you want to really protect the babies as day one, that's the best way to do it. For the older adult, the approach that we are using is again using vaccines that are mixed with an adjuvant to overcome the immunosenescence, the aging immune system in that populations. Having those two vaccines will allow us in the future to be able to protect those two susceptible populations. Now, I already touched base on what could be the next global threat. For some bacteria like gonorrhea, Klebsiella, Staphylococcus, Pseudomonas, hospitals or countries are now having a huge amount of difficulty to find treatment to treat people that are infected by those bacteria. Something to remind, when you have a vaccine available, you don't induce resistance. The best way to avoid resistance to antibiotic is to have a vaccination. And that has been demonstrated by looking after decades of vaccinations on bacteria where we have available vaccines. So if you think about the future, the antibiotic development has had a lot of difficulties the past decade to find new molecules. That's why the interest to use vaccinology to be able to fight the antimicrobial resistance has become a weapon that now is looked at the global health. So the one that we are focusing right now, we are looking for developing vaccines against Staphylococcus aureus and Clostridium difficile, which are diseases where the number of deaths are increasing each year, and we expect that those numbers will be multiplied by 10 by 2015 if we don't have a new solution. So those pathogens are very complicated. It's bacteria. They also have an interplay between the host and the human system. And again, many attempts has been done in the past without being successful. Today we are in clinic with potential candidate vaccines, and we cross fingers that hopefully we will be able to have something which is successful. Now, if you think about immunology and the breakthrough of immunology in the field of medicines, think about oncology. In the past, we were speaking about chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and now, since around 10 years, we speak about immunotherapy in oncology, which has been very disruptive in terms of new treatment. Thanks to the life science technology, we know now more and more that some chronic diseases are associated with infectious agents. The idea is now to think about, can we not only prevent infectious disease, but can we also treat patients that are already infected? And you might think, which disease? We are thankful to have, for example, a vaccine to prevent hepatitis B. But the coverage of the vaccination against hepatitis B is not global. So we still have a lot of people dying from an infection through cirrhosis, chronic hepatitis, that can evolve through a cancer. Can we use vaccinology to treat those patients? Genital herpes, soil course, those are all linked to a pathogen, a virus from the herpes family. Can we use vaccinology to find a way to protect those diseases? Answer is yes. What you will do is to have weapons to educate the immune system, to change your immune system to be able to fight against a recurrence that is associated with the virus. So for example, chronic hepatitis B. 250 million of patients suffering with chronic hepatitis B. Close to 1 million of deaths per year. So medical need very high, no real treatment for those populations. If we can tweak the immune system, which we know is efficient to fight against virus, in a way that it re-educates the fight against the virus, it will be a disruptive approach to those patients. Again, thanks to the new technology, the understanding we have on that disease, we are developing a vaccine combined with small molecules to treat those patients. So now, if I do a retrospective and look about what the vaccination has been able to do for the society and the global health, for children, I think there is no doubt there has been a great job done really to protect our baby and infants. The mortality has dramatically decreased the last few decades. We have been able to also able to have medicine approach, vaccine approach to protect our elderly, which is again great job. But we still have a lot to do. We are getting a society which is aging, remember, more susceptible to pathogens, and we know that we have to tailor vaccines for that population. So we have still to do. We have need to have better flu vaccines. We need to have better RSV vaccine, but many other viruses associated with respiratory disease in that populations. Corona, more recently. Now, if you think about what could be the future, this is the area where we have still a lot to target. Increase the coverage. We have seen how equity is very important. And I'm proud to work in a company where 70% of the vaccine we produce go to the developing countries. We have seen in the COVID-19, the rate of immunization in those countries are very low. So we need to continue to work in a society, in a model where access to the vaccinations for vaccine that is available is happening. So we have a lot to do. There is also infectious disease that are happening in those countries that we need to tackle. Malaria is one of it. Tuberculosis is one of it. Those are not happening in our countries, but they are making people dying in those endemics. So we need to continue the science and the research for having weapons against those diseases. And now I want to be futurist, and I want to make sure that sometimes we will be able to find, through the vaccination, through the vaccinology or immunotherapy, whatever we call it, new weapons to treat difficult to treat diseases. One can imagine cancer. Thanks to the understanding of the biology of cancer, we know that there are now antigens that could be used to target in the cancer. We know that some chronic diseases, Crohn, Alzheimer, are also associated with some infectious disease. So we can think about precision medicine in the future that could be also tackled through a vaccinology or immunotherapy in the future. So I really would like to thanks for listening to me, and I hope that I have been able to give you a broad scope about vaccination of today and vaccination of tomorrow. Thank you.